In my last video where I talked about the PlayStation Vita, I mentioned its active homebrew scene, filled with loving fans of the system that pretty much are what's keeping the Vita alive. But I've already talked about that quite a bit, along with the tools and other homebrew content released by the community. In this video, I wanted to focus on Valve games that were ported by the community and brought to the PS Vita. Some of these ports are just proofs of concept, while others are pretty complete experiences that don't differ much from the original. I already made 2 videos about Valve games on the PSP, which I recommend watching, especially since the Vita is backwards compatible with PSP software. But with that out of the way, let's get started. As some of you may remember, in the PSP video I found a port of Quake Team Fortress, which isn't a Valve game but it's close enough, though I never got it to work. For this video, I took the time to set everything up, and here it is, the Quake mod that started it all, 1996's Quake Team Fortress. Upon loading the mod, I then had to use a console to enter the map, which I chose to be good old 2Fort, known here as 2Fort 5. I didn't add bots or anything like that because I don't know how to do that in Quake, and I just felt like exploring the very first iteration of this iconic map. Some things have been changed over the years, whether due to better mapping software or just because they felt like it. Regardless, playing a bit of Quake TF, whether online or exploring it on your own, is a pretty cool way to look back at this piece of gaming history, and I totally recommend giving it a go. I'm using the Quakespasm client, as it's said that's the best one for dealing with mods on the PS Vita. Moving on to actual Valve games, let's jump on over to Portal. The port of Portal we saw in the PSP video was pretty charming, as they were able to create a pretty captivating and immersive experience with very little. So let's take a look at what the community can do with the increased power of the PS Vita. This port's by Dan Cooper, who I believe made some other ports for the Vita, maybe even some that we're gonna take a look at next. I honestly have no idea, as his ports often get lost and have little to no information to their name. This port has a lot in common with the PSP port. It's more of a buggy and unfinished proof of concept rather than an actual game, though it's still entertaining to move around and see how far you can go. The game being unfinished is actually helpful in some scenarios. For example, in the normal game, the emancipation grills prevent the player from bringing a cube to this elevator, but here, I can bring one just fine, letting me put it on top of a button and opening this door that I couldn't have opened otherwise. But that's where the fun ends. There's no elevator on this floor, and all you can do is just sort of no-clip through the walls to try and see what's in the rest of the map, but that's about it. It has some potential, and I like how much it looks like the real game, but this seems to be more of a concept rather than a finished product. Next, let's take a look back at another port we covered in the PSP video, and that is CSPSV, a classic PSP fan game heavily inspired by the PC fan game CS2D. The Vita version, sometimes called CSPSV, isn't very different from these two. It still is a top-down 2D shooter centered around Counter-Strike, and it still is incredibly fun. The PlayStation Vita has a few more buttons and control methods than the PSP, some of which were used in this game in a pretty good way, like the second analog stick, which gives us a more traditional control experience. But besides that, this is pretty much just the PSP version. I talked a bit more about it on the PSP video, so make sure to take a look at that if you're interested. There's some more stuff regarding Team Fortress and Counter-Strike on this list, but first, let's take a look at the most fascinating project on this list. And here it is, Half-Life 2 Deathmatch running on a PS Vita. Well, kinda. This is a Unity project meant to recreate Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, and despite not being finished, it does a pretty good job, considering the differences between Unity and the source engine. The main thing I notice is that when I try to interact with things like glass, barrels, and crates, nothing happened. I guess they didn't program that in this version, which is understandable, as it is some pretty complex stuff. I remember being completely shocked with the glass physics of Half-Life 2 when I was younger. I'd love to credit the people behind this port, but I have no idea who they are. I found this on the Internet Archive from someone who also just stumbled across the file. Now let's move on to the bread and butter of the Valve homebrew community, a project I forgot to mention in the first PSP video and you guys made sure to let me know about it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at X-3D on the Vita. To those of you who don't know about the X-3D project, allow past me to tell you about it. But first, what is X-3D? Well, it's essentially an open source version of Valve's Gold Source engine, which was allegedly completely rewritten from scratch by the community and supports the vast majority of Gold Source games, while offering a lot more than the original engine, such as the ability to render way more particles and entities at a time. The version of X-3D we're going to be taking a look at today is X-3D FWGS, which is a fork of the X-3D project offering some new features, the biggest one being cross-platform support across many CPU architectures, so you can play on devices like your phone, your 3DS, and the PSP. For this video, I decided to go all in and see how many games I can get running on X-3D. After all, we're trying to see how many Valve games are playable on a PS Vita, and it's still a reasonable amount, so let's get started. Of course, I had to start with Half-Life 1, Valve's first game, which you can now play in one of the coolest handhelds out there. Most of this footage is from the training mode, but rest assured the entirety of the game runs on this Vita. I just chose the tutorial because it quickly goes through the main mechanics of the game. I really liked playing this on the Vita. It runs well, the controls feel nice, and I could totally see myself finish this game once again, but this time on this amazing system. Now, since we've tried some Half-Life, we might as well try out its amazing expansions, starting with Blue Shift, where you play as Barney the security guard, which is perfectly playable. Along with Opposing Force, where you play as the US Marine Adrian Shepard, all of these games are perfectly playable on the Vita, at a pretty good frame rate, with pretty decent controls that you can easily customize in the settings. I just want to add that while I was filming this part, the X-3D application froze, but I was able to move around the home menu. So after a quick Google search, I found that's a common issue regarding one of the shoulder buttons being stuck, so I tried to clean them, but it stayed the same. I then remember it could be a software problem, so I formatted the system. It wasn't a software problem, and I couldn't jailbreak the system again because I couldn't control any app due to this issue, so I took the Vita apart, nearly ruined the ribbon cables, cleaned everything as well as I could, put it back in, and everything was fine. I turned it off for a bit. When I turned it back on, nothing from the display. Took it apart again, readjusted the screen's ribbon cable, and it came back to life, only now with this beautiful array of dead pixels. I modded everything again, put the files back in, and overnight I became a certified PS Vita Slim technician, and someone who desperately needs to buy a new screen. Anyway, let's move on. We still have some cool stuff on the way. Like Team Fortress Classic, which is, just like the Quake mod that started it all, a pretty good trip down gaming history, now with the charm of the Gold Source engine. The menu has some multiplayer options, so there might be a way to play a match with your friends, or to even join a server, though I didn't really explore this part. Okay, here's something you probably weren't expecting. I wasn't for sure. Someone managed to make a version of Garry's mod for the Vita. That's someone being Reddit user Grouchy Implement 14, who seems to be a viewer of the channel, which is pretty cool. Here's a video of them testing it out. You get a pretty good menu and you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with Valve assets, just like on the original Gmod. The fact this is running not just on a Vita but on the Gold Source engine is insane. I'm in the process of obtaining a playable version of this port, so who knows, there might be a video just about this marvelous port in the future. Next up, here's Counter-Strike 1.6, arguably the most popular game on this list. Just like Team Fortress Classic, it's a marvelous piece of gaming history, and this PS Vita version doesn't remove anything from the original. It has the exact same graphics and the same features and functionalities. The X-3D engine is so well made that there just isn't a lot to talk about here. This is exactly what you would get with the PC versions, which is great. And to finish things off, let's take a look at a Valve game I never played in my life, even though it's in my Steam library. Twice. Here's Day of Defeat running on a PlayStation Vita. Dot is probably Valve's least popular game, surpassed maybe by Ricochet. Day of Defeat is a World War II themed first-person shooter that predates similar titles like Call of Duty. And, most importantly, it is thanks to this game that we got the Orange map, one of the most iconic maps across the entire Source engine. Now, I didn't really play the game as intended. My version of X-3D was configured in a way where I was playing as Gordon Freeman with a pistol, so I decided to just explore the map. And I must say, this is a pretty good looking map for Gold Source standards. Maybe it's just because I'm too used to seeing the industrial look of Black Mesa or the Deserts of Dust 2, but I really like this map. Though I didn't explore much since I was getting killed by something when I got a bit too far. I'll leave it up to you if you want to try the game out. And that's gonna be it for today. We took a look at some attempts by the community to bring Valve's most popular games to the PlayStation Vita. Some good, some not so good, some were direct ports, some were a different genre from the original, but all deserve to be appreciated. Did I forget anything? Is there any topic you guys want me to cover in a future video? Make sure to let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoy watching this video. Have a nice day.